Hello and welcome to Hello Governor, the podcast. As always, I am Abdullah, and my guest today is introduce yourself, good sir.
My name's Eliah Mountjoy.
It's your name confused me because for the longest time I thought it was Elias, but then I looked at it and it's like Eliah. It's a very biblical name.
It is. It is technically. Yeah. I'm not very biblical myself, but it does have its roots in the Bible.
It's like when I look at that name, I'm like, he could either be a voice actor or a 1970s adult film star.
You're not the first person to make that association, especially with my last name. And I'd have to tell people, yeah, that's my real last name. I didn't make that one up. This is
Oh,
Ramses. He's hanging out with me right now. See if I can get him in the shot. Ramses likes to hang out with me here because when he was a little kitty, I've got three cats. And when he was a kitty, um, the other cats don't immediately get along, if you don't know. And I didn't know. You have to kind of keep them sequestered into different rooms and spaces. So Ramses had to be kept down here in his own little special crate. And so anytime I come down here, this is his special time. And he just wants to hang out and get pet and purr everywhere. So I kind of have to, if I'm doing a full session, I've got to, close him out behind two doors because he'll make a lot of noise. But if you hear a little purr or a meow, that's going to be Ramses for now.
I mean, you're not the first voice actor I've had on the show who has been interrupted by their cat, so there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how did you get started and what made you want to get into acting?
Wow. Well, man, what got me started was very different from how I wanted to get into acting. I always kind of had a penchant for the arts, I guess, since I was a kid. My penchant was not in the sciences. It was not in reading, writing, and arithmetic. My strengths showed themselves kind of more early on as coloring and music. And when I was very, very young, my mom said I was a mimic. So an ambulance would go by or something like that, and in my little car seat, I'd be like, "Woo!" This is obviously way before I remember being able to do that. It just was kind of in me. So, I watched cartoons and I played video games growing up. So that was always something that kind of was in my subconscious and my foreconscious. I don't know what the opposite of subconscious is. There's subconscious, unconscious, and prime conscious. I don't know. Let's call it. I'm sure there's a better word for that. But so I always wanted. I knew I loved cartoons and video games, but it wasn't. It really wasn't until much much later in my life that I found voice acting specifically. And I don't know. I've got a whole story of how I kind of got involved into acting first. First it was stage, but ultimately it led me to voice acting, which is really where I found, oh, this is kind of what I've been looking for. This is what I love to do. This is what I'm willing to put up with all the hardship and extra crap that comes along with it, just to be able to play at the mic.
And was it like an easy transition, or was it like, did you find any difficulty like transitioning from like stage acting to from on camera to to voiceover, or was it just not much of an issue?
Yeah, I did. It was not an easy transfer for me personally. For some people, I think it's probably much easier. I'm not a very quick study. It takes me a lot longer to memorize lines. It takes me a lot longer to just kind of absorb everything. If I put the work in and I do it, then I can really get into that immersive space. But voiceover was different enough for me, um, especially from stage or on camera. I really kind of had to relearn how to use my instrument, my voice, because with voiceover you really just have your voice to communicate everything. the eyebrow raise, the shrug, the sidestep. It's all got to be kind of in the voice. And that, so I did a lot of training. I did study with a lot of different people, and I kept at it for year after year after year. And I still make a point to do it now. I feel like there's always more to learn. There's always you can always be better than you were yesterday. And so I kind of try and keep that as like the golden medallion swinging in front of me that I go after. Can I just be better than I was yesterday?
I mean, you have to. Otherwise, how are you going to improve? Like if you don't have that drive to want to constantly improve on your craft, then I honestly think you're never going to get better. Then you're never going to improve, honestly, if you don't have that drive. Because if you're not hungry and you don't want it, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. You got to have that drive. You got to have that. I want to go for it because there's plenty of setbacks. There's plenty of hardship in just wanting to do it in the first place. It's not easy. It's not easy. It was a little harder for me probably to get started with. Like I said, it's everything is. I tend to go the long way around the lake in any endeavor I do. But that's exactly right. You got to have that drive, that want. That's that thing that you want to, a thing that's going to push you and propel you through kind of what's needed to stay in it for long enough to get proficient at it enough. Because there's all different styles of voiceover, There's different genres within just the genre of voiceover. There's commercial and promo and narration and animation. And within animation, there's all different kinds of that. It gets very specific. And when I was getting started, it was recommended to me that I take one at a time on. And of course, I did not take that advice. But looking back, that would be something I would tell my past self. Just start with one. Start with commercial, or start with animation. Wherever you just start there. Just work on that. Work on that. Work on that. And but I think that the fundamentals they still have to be there. It's still acting. Even for people that are voice artists and do, say, a lot of corporate explainers or medical narration, stuff like that, that seems more clinical and more straightforward. I think still those performances are better with sort of an acting background, and because you're channeling somebody else's information through your vessel and conveying it to an audience through an emotional feed and an emotional wavelength. And I understand corporate explainers are not exactly that emotional, but if you're still talking to a person, a human, and so if you're able to connect with them emotionally, I think that they're that much more able to receive the information that you're trying to convey. I don't know if you can hear Ramses here, but he's just purring away.
Nah, man, I love it. But I agree with you. I think that, a lot of people just when they think of voiceover, they just think, oh, it's cartoons, it's anime, it's whatever, it's video games. It's not, they don't think about promo or corporate explainers because that's not glamorous. That's not the what do you call it? The vision that they want to, whenever someone wants to get into voiceover, usually they want to do it because it's like anime or video games or cartoons. They don't want to be like, I want to be a voiceover person because I want to do like trailer voices or whatever. It's always like cartoons and what have you. But I think that,
Yeah,
I think that but my point is like, I think that the promo stuff is an untapped market. And I think that, if you're going to get into voiceover, I think it's important to have a variety of, a repertoire of, just like, be a Swiss Army knife, basically is what I'm trying to say. Like do everything that you can do so you can like keep working.
yeah, I think that's good advice. And the thing I'd add to that is be a Swiss Army knife, but make sure that every tool you can click out of that Swiss Army knife is a usable tool. It's the knife is sharp or the corkscrew is It's got that core. If you're gonna bust that out, make sure that it can be used. You know what I mean? Because again, if I could go back and tell my younger self, you try and like flip out too many. I got the big knife and the small knife, and it's like, but can you use the big knife? Can you use the small knife? And it's like, well, sorta. I got a lot of energy to be able to do it, and because there's no second. Nothing replaces training and practicing and getting used to your tool, the tools in your toolbox, and knowing how to use them. When should you use the screwdriver? When should you use the toothpick? When should you use the scissors? Like what's best for that? That's one of those things that it's like going to the gym. You see somebody who is very fit and in shape. Well, even if they're on PEDs or steroids or whatever, would they still have to do the work? You can't you can't circumvent putting in the time to train and get better. And and that takes a certain amount of humility. It takes a certain amount of wisdom. It takes a certain amount of fortitude to stay the course. And all of those things I just did not have coming out of the gate. It's something I just work on. It's a daily thing. I have to work on all of those things and make sure that I'm, you know, staying as sharp as I can, keeping as fit as I can, mentally, physically, emotionally, because it all matters. All of that stuff comes through in the performance.
Yeah, because if your performance isn't convincing, then the player or the viewer doesn't care. Like it's not just going into the booth and doing a silly voice. It's not what do you call it? It's not just reading copy. You're not just reading copy. You are the character. You have to be the character. You have to, for like an anime session, you have to be that character for however long that average session is. It's not,
Right.
you're not just brought in to be like, hey, here's a script. Can you read out these lines? No, it's
Right.
you have to again like it's acting. It's acting. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not just going into a booth and just playing pretend. I mean, it is acting.
Yeah. Yeah. The more I've got cat hair all over me because I'm petting Ramses. The more you can really embody that character, I think the better a chance somebody has to connect and take that feed of emotion. And like you say, somebody goes in and they can just um, read words off a page, but you can tell when they're just reading words off of a page. Likewise, you can tell when they're really emotionally engaged. They really feel like they're in the arena or in the jungle or in the wherever they are. And that's the trick. That's the trick. How do you get to that place? And then it's kind of like what you were alluding to. Can you sustain that voice for 1, 2, 4 hours? Because that can really start taking a toll also. And that's something that I had to kind of gauge and learn how to pace the the vocal output to match, any voice you try to put on. Because like you say, you go in and it's not just about doing voices. You got to bring life to this, and then you got to sustain that same voice for the duration of the session, or it just doesn't work. It doesn't sound right, So the voice is a strange thing. It's not a muscle. It's not something that you can exercise and get stronger. My ENT always tells me it's more the exercise, the vocal cords is more like a tendon or something like that, where it gets more efficient. It doesn't get stronger per se, like a muscle would, if you. So that's another little trick that you got to kind of figure out, like especially if you're doing a character that likes to scream. That's that's always something. That's always the number one burnout thing. But if you'd be surprised if you put on a weird voice. that your vocal cords just aren't used to. They're like, what are we doing? What's going on here? We're gonna swell up now and cause a lot of inflammation, and you're gonna just sound hoarse. You're not gonna sound like anything but just raw and hoarse.
Yeah, man. Like it's interesting because, like you said, sustaining, a voice for however long sessions is really tough because you have to not only sustain that voice for that session, but you also got to make sure to do it in a way that doesn't hurt because if you hurt yourself, and it does happen, I've had plenty of guests on this show who have talked about like destroying their vocal cords whenever they're coming in to record for a Call of Duty game or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It's bad because once you lose your voice, that's it. You're out for however long you need to recover, and then you lose out on work, and then it's awful, and then there you go.
Yeah. And then that that game developer or that artist or engineer or director or whatever, they know, oh, this person's they've got a little ways to understand how to maintain that vocal integrity that's needed through certain sessions. But I got to say, there's also a good many directors out there, even engineers who really are now kind of keyed into like always checking in. Like, are you okay? How you doing? Do you want to take 5 minute break? Do you want to do these at the end? That kind of thing. So I think that word's gotten out, and people are pretty good now about making sure that they're not just trying to blow you out. Because the generation before me, man, yeah, I've heard the stories too. Just coming out, bleeding. It's like, damn, that is like Fred Tatasciore talks about that. Who else? Steve Bloom. I mean, all the people that have done like the big voices. It's like they talk about earning your keep or earning your rank. Holy cow, man! I've lost my voice before, lots of times before, say, but I've never bled. That is a whole other level.
Yeah, it's crazy to me whenever I hear an actor say like, "Oh, that session was so intense, I was literally bleeding at the end of it," and it's like, what were you doing to your voice to do
Yeah,
that? It's like,
yeah,
holy
yeah.
cow! I think,
Imagine what you'd have to do to bleed from your vocal cords, and then could you recover? I mean, one of my mentors, David Sobolov. God, that guy's voice is it's incredible. He's got incredible pipes and a very musical background and a lot of classical training as an actor. I mean, the guy's pedigree through and through. And he's talked to me about having lost his voice for I think it was six months, something a long time, to the point where he thought he was done. His voice was done. It's like, oh my God, man. I can't imagine. So I do have a strong regimen about trying to take care of the pipes and always being on top of that preemptive. Let's not get to the place where we now have to not talk for a week just to get back to normal. It's like, what are the things that I can do to kind of to help my voice along, and then knowing what my dynamic range is. How much can I give if it's a 1 hour session, if it's a 2 hour session, if it's 4 hours, you know, those are long sessions. And but like I said, a lot of people are privy to the fact that we can put the big screams and stuff at the end because sometimes you do those in the middle, and then you come back and you're just a little more hoarse than you were before because you've just been screaming. And so for the good of the project, for the good of the cause, for the good of your voice, everybody's pretty good now about putting that towards the end.
yeah, it's not like the old days where they just had like what do you call it, Fred Tatasciore go in and destroy his voice by doing the Hulk for an
Right.
average session.
Right. Right. But I mean, that guy, you've seen his travel kit or his recovery kit. I mean, he really kind of paved the way with Nimjam and all kinds of stuff. Like I've got, um, Deborah Wilson uses this, I don't know if you can see this throat saver. She was the one who Ramses thinks that this is going to be a something for him. Just a spray. You're not going to like that, buddy. You are not going to like that. But very effervescent. You can really feel the kind of medicinal cooling effect because you when you're going hot, things tend to warm up, and then they it encourages that inflammation, and that's when things you can kind of feel like things starting to swell. So there's a number of things that um, I'll do to try and keep that inflammation and swelling from happening. But you really got to know. You got to know, like, I'm redlining for too long. We either got to take a break or I got to pull it back. But there's also a period of warming up, and there's a lot of conditioning you can do, for the voice, so that you're used to it. You're like I was saying, you get efficient, and then you can kind of get warm, and then it's not really getting in the way so much as it is aiding to the emotional state and duress of the character, which conveys the stakes.
And how did you take to dubbing? Was it easy or was it hard?
Oh man, I loved dubbing. I loved dubbing right away. I wasn't great at dubbing in a way, but I liked it because I've got a lot of music in my background. I love music, and I kind of saw it as like karaoke. You have you have a given period of time, and you've got the words that have to be said, and they have to be said in a certain way. It's kind of like verbal karaoke. So I really liked it, and I could hear the inflections if you listen to the original. So I really liked it. Where it gets hard is English speakers, we don't talk super quickly, like Spanish. I was doing one in Turkish not too long ago, French, um, uh, Russian. Man, they speak so fast, and you've got so many words to get in while you try and convey. That's there's the rub. That's where it's like, how can you take this given space of time, while looking at whatever this is happening with the character's face or whatever they're doing, and really convey what's true to the original source in that finite amount of time. It's a real a trick. It's a real skill that to be learned. And so it's another one of those things that, if do I have that in my Swiss Army knife? Well, I started going to work on it. I started really trying to prepare for that. Like being able to read quickly and then emotionally process that quickly and spit it out of your mouth quickly. So there's all kinds of skills just in being able to do that. Can you read it quickly enough? Can you process what's happening emotionally? And then can you do the tongue twisters and get it out fast enough, to where it makes sense? And not just that, it's the character. It's that character. And so that's what I love about voiceover. It's always something. It's always something new. It's never the same thing over and over and over. It just keeps you engaged. It forces engagement. It forces you to keep all your antennae on what's happening. And for me, I need that kind of thing. For me personally, I need something that's challenging in that way.
Speaking of, I want to talk, talking about your dubbing work, I want to talk about Gundam real quick. I know that you voiced a role in one of the movies, one of the newer movies, and
Yeah.
I had interviewed Bill Munday, who was the original voice, was one of the original voices, one of the original Gundam voices. He was like, I don't want to say he was the original because he was replacing another actor, but he was one of the original voices of Sligo Roll. And he said like one of the biggest, his main inspiration was Han Solo and Harrison
Uh,
Ford. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering when you took over the role, was that based on anybody in particular, or did you
You
just do
know,
your own
it's
thing?
funny you say that. Um, I didn't intentionally base, Slegger on Han, but Han Solo is one of my favorite all-time characters. I mean, I grew up on him. And Harrison Ford at large is one of my big role models. So I'm sure that that bled through in some way. I'm sure that it did because he's always been the coolest and just the coolest smuggler. You know, he like created that archetype, or he just completely embodied it. And so I'm sure that that snuck over. I'm sure that bled over in some capacity. But that whole Gundam thing, that was one of my first introductions for me to anime when I was a kid. It was a real honor to be able to just be in that universe. But that that was the coolest thing for me. The Gundams, the mechs, the like. That's what got me. That's what pulled me in. Like the huge battling robots, just so cool. Even now, or with their mobile suits. It's just all that's. I love sci-fi stuff. I'm all about sci-fi stuff. It's always been um, in my development since I was very, very young.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, I think one the original Gundam, I've said this before in previous episodes, but like the original Gundam was one of my like favorite shows, as a teenager when discovering anime for the first time. I'm like, this is really cool.
Nice. Yeah, it is really cool.
I will not collect Gunpla though. I mean, I respect the people who collect Gunpla and put them together and all those model kits, but no, not for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's time consuming, that's for sure.
So let's get into the thing that people most likely want to hear about, Marvel Rivals. How did you get involved in that?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, that was just another audition that came through my agent, just like all the rest of them. Hey, man, it was so many years ago. It was like 2 years ago. I don't even remember what the initial audition was. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I could go back because I keep all of them. I keep all of my auditions so that I can kind of go back and check on how I'm doing and what I need to work on, that sort of thing. So I'm sure I have it back there somewhere, but I wasn't like I wasn't like at the moment, oh my God, this is something for Marvel. This is Winter. Don't mess this up. I just approached it in the same way I do all the other stuff. And I was lucky enough that they called me back and called me in. And I do remember the initial recording sessions. And um, I just, always have thought Bucky Barnes was a cool character because he's different than the other superheroes. Um, but it wasn't until maybe the last year or so of recording that I kind of realized, oh, this is going to become something probably a little bit more than the other projects that I've worked on, just in terms of exposure and popularity. And then we had more sessions and more sessions, and then I got they were really great about allowing me to just kind of bring what I bring to the role. It wasn't um, you know it wasn't say this or do it like that. It was what are you bringing to it? And that was the what was the most fun about it, because then I could be that's what got me into the acting thing. That's what made me want to do it. It's what would you do if you were fill in the blank? And in this case, it was Bucky Barnes, and it just was a joy. It really was a lot of fun with the recording part, you know. And then this is kind of an added bonus, the popularity of the game, and just uh, I'm still trying to get to play the game. I haven't really played it, and because we've had um, a lot of fires here in Los Angeles, and the beginning of the year was just gotten crazy. The end of the last year was crazy. Everybody's trying to sneak in their projects last second. So I've been trying to get to it because I love gaming. I grew up gaming. I want to do it, but I just haven't had the time to do it. And now more than ever, I really want to play the game. I don't know. Are you a gamer? Do you play it all?
I mean, I've played the game for I think 40 plus hours I've put into it, and
Okay. Okay,
Bucky's what
nice.
I mean, Bucky's one of my favorite characters because I mean, he was never like you said, I mean, he was never what do you call it? Popular. I don't want to say not popular, but he was always like the oddball of the group. Like he
Yeah.
wasn't
Popular.
I
Yeah.
mean, he wasn't. I mean, he
Right.
wasn't Captain America. Like you see a ton of Captain America cosplays whenever
No.
you go to a con, but like you rarely
Right.
see anybody play cosplaying as Bucky
Right.
because
Right.
it's like he was always weird because it's like it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. I mean, he's basically just
Yeah.
like he goes from being like goofy, a sidekick, and then the 2000s came, and then that was the era where it's like, yeah, let's take let's bring this character back, but he's a brainwashed super soldier, and he's edgy and what have
Yeah.
you, and it's like
Yeah.
it's just such a weird dichotomy. It's like Jason Todd basically, but without it's basically Jason Todd. I mean, he's basically Jason Todd. Let's not beat around the bush. Like,
Yeah. I thought was what was so cool about him was he kind of is sort of outcast-y. It doesn't really fit in. Didn't know who didn't know who he was, and so he does have that, but he also has that kind of dark streak to him, right? He has that not do, doesn't fit in, but also doesn't want to fit in. And I personally really connect with that. That's kind of what happened to me growing up. I didn't know who I was or where I plugged in, how I fit in, and so I was able to connect right there on that base level, and then you can extrapolate to, but now, okay, now you got these superpowers and you got this arm, Bucky is just he's been this cool character for me because he's not trying to outdo himself. He's not Captain America, where he's got to be the leader at all times. He's he's got this also level of he's a great balance for me of like strong and vulnerable, confident and insecure. And he rides this fulcrum of constantly balancing these things. And I think that makes him really approachable as a character, especially a Marvel character.
yeah, because I mean, if you're someone who pays attention to the lore, I mean, I know it's a hero shooter, and not a lot of people pay attention to the lore, but it is interesting to note that this version of Bucky is like he's like in the movies where where his relationship with Steve is like it's not on the rocks, but they're not like buddy buddy. You can tell between their interactions that it feels weird that they're working together again because he points it
Yeah,
out like this is weird, like or
yeah,
Cap is like it's just like the old days.
right, right,
And I love that you brought that level of vulnerability to him because like one of my favorite lines is like I'm not a symbol like Steve. Then I think that pretty much
right,
sums him up.
right, right. Yeah, you're right. Exactly, exactly right. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that responsibility. And I mean, that's part of what makes Cap Cap. He does want that. He does assume that position. And Brian, who plays him in this game, he's perfect, right? He's perfect for that because you can when he says his lines or his ults, you're like, that's the Captain America, man. That's him. I mean, I think all credit to NetEase and Bright Skull, who was the signatory who recorded this. They did a great job of really fleshing out this cast, and I'm particularly honored to be part of this. And there's so many greats in it, and so many people I've looked up to and trained under and want to be like. That it's been a real privilege for me to hear their performances and hear their deliveries and their voices in the game, and and to just kind of be in that same arena and play along. It's it's definitely a slice serving me a slice of humble pie because I've looked up to so many people in the cast for so long.
And what are some of your favorite lines and interactions?
Oh man. Um, um, there, there's a couple of lines that I can kind of remember. Um, People will send me TikToks or whatever, and be like, of me doing whatever. Obviously, the armed and dangerous and again lines, but there would be some lines that I'm trying to recover now. Now that you put me on the spot, um, the ones that I really liked were they have these little like interactions between the characters. There was one with Logan Wolverine, where he's like, I think he asks like, there's a couple of things between that we have in common, and I'm like, something like, I mean, the fact that we're older, we're older than our age, but we look better than our age, or something like that. And he goes, no, we're extremely dangerous. And I'm like, oh yeah, right, that too. But Bucky's got this approachable aspect to him. He's not Wolverine is obviously like, it's Wolverine. You don't walk up and talk to him. But Bucky, you might. Bucky, you might. And I think that like Bucky, one of the things I love about the superhero genre is that superheroes come from this place where they come from an insecure place, and you have to find and discover your superpowers. And it's the perfect allegory for us as people, as humans. That's why it works. That's why it works so well. It's that inborn hero's journey, that Joseph Campbell thing where you have to overcome these trials and take the bad thing that happened to you and make it your superpower. And with Bucky, say, he's got this outcast kind of vibe to him. It doesn't fit in, but kind of wants to. It's like it's different than Logan. He doesn't want to fit in. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be the leader. He doesn't want to be around anybody. But Bucky kind of does. Uh, and so when you do team up with them, it feels good. I think it feels good because you're like, oh yeah, it's like you join a friend and you've got that camaraderie, and it's when you know that they want to be there and you want to be there, it forms this cool alliance, this cool bond. And Bucky's got those vibes, so all the things that he says, in game, uh, man, I wish I had some more of these off the tip of my tongue. But he's like at the top of the game, he'll say some things like, I always thought I was going to be like this, but life turned out to be like that. And that's just how it is. I mean, for me personally, I never thought that I was going to be a voice actor. It wasn't until a lot later that I discovered, oh, it's a thing. Of course, when I'm watching the Smurfs, I know that somebody's doing Gargamel's voice, but I never really put together that that's a job that you could do. It's a job out there, like, like a firefighter or a doctor or whatever. It's something you could do. And that's another thing I've got in common with Bucky Barnes, where you go, I didn't know who I was or what I was going to do or what was going to happen to me, good and bad, easy and hard, that was going to form who I am and who I become. And you sort of find what your superpowers are. You find what your usefulness is. You find how you plug into the team, what you can give and offer. And I think that that's what Marvel Rivals is really getting right. They got the universe where people come together. You gotta have a duelist. You gotta have a tank. You gotta have a healer. You gotta balance it, right? You can't just all be duelists. That's not how a team wins. You gotta you gotta fill different slots. And so, like I said, I really want to play and get into the game and play with some friends and stuff. But it's just, I think maybe in the next week or two, I might be able to get there. I can knock on wood.
I think one of my favorite interactions is between him and the Punisher, where the Punisher like says like, "Oh, you're inspiration for me," and he's like, "Well, I'm not comfortable being an inspiration for for you because it's like, yeah, I may have done some things I'm not proud of, but I mean, I don't think that, I don't think that's inspiring to me,
Oh, nice, nice.
because the
Yeah,
Punisher is well the Punisher."
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I do remember that line. Yeah, I'm not proud of the things I've done, or I shouldn't be venerated from the things I've done. Yeah, yeah, man, good call. Right, and the Punisher is like, well, Frank Castle is, and that's what makes the Punisher. You know, and Bill, my friend who does the voice for him, he's perfect. He's got the perfect voice for Punisher. Punisher is my brother's was my brother's favorite Marvel character growing up. So he had all the comic books. So I read all of them alongside him and really got to know the Punisher. And it's like, yeah, that's right. That's who the Punisher is. His ult. What does he's like? What does he say when he just pulls out his super cannon and just lays waste? Um, Judge, jury, executioner. It's like totally. That's totally the Punisher, right?
Yeah, I mean it's such a silly game because it's like, yeah, you're playing like this like you're just play it's it's so funny to me like just seeing like Tony Stark get beat by the Punisher with a shotgun. Like it's just like, okay, that
Right,
happened.
right, right, right.
It's like who knew?
Yeah.
And there's just nothing funnier than just seeing like Magneto get his ass kicked by Iron Fist. I don't know why that's so funny to me.
That's a good point. I didn't put that one together. Yeah, that one. But I mean, another good thing that they've done is balancing that game. Imagine balancing that. Oh my God, that's insane. Like, I guess to your point, if they were able to come up with a strategy, and maybe they have done this. I just haven't played it enough. But you're right. Like, should Iron Fist be able to touch Magneto? And so if somebody's playing Magneto, maybe then you gotta be like, oh, we gotta switch up the strategy because I don't know the game well enough. But you bring up a good point. That's a very good point.
I mean, like all this time, like Charles could have just stopped him by just being like, "Hey, Iron Fist, Magnus is doing his stuff again. Can you please
Mm,
deal with it?" And then there you go. Like, I, I,
yeah,
I mean, after playing this game, I'm like, you know what? Those Avengers movies, like, they should have just called Iron Fist. They'd just be like, hey, Thanos, like, he just he would have gotten his ass beat, like, before he got to Earth.
you're right, man. I mean, there's so much complexities to it. I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe Iron Fist was otherwise indisposed into some other thing, and because it's like and you bring up another good point. Like, where's Professor X? Like, there's so many characters they could bring in, right? So it's like, what are they like? What's the most elemental, and what's going to work well in this kind of arena, this battle arena? And um, I don't know. I think that with my limited um, knowledge of actually what the gameplay is, it seems like they've done a great job just balancing that and being able to be like, I want to be Tony Stark, or I want to be Bruce Banner, or I want to be Nebula, or I want to be Scarlet Witch, and then kind of have like special powers that pertain just to that character. I don't know. I can see the appeal. I can be like, oh, now I want to play Doctor Strange, and now I want to play Penny Parker. Like, Venom. I loved Venom growing up. Venom looks super awesome, and that's Steve Bloom. So yeah, it's a really cool game, and how lucky am I to be a part of it?
I mean, I think this is like the only. I mean, look, I'm not a big Fantastic Four fan, but like. They found a way to make Reed Richards fun to play, and I didn't think that was even possible.
Right, nice. Yeah. Yeah, they did a good job. They've done a good job.
I mean, just like seeing these just different. I love that, not every character feels the same. Like, yeah, they have all, they're obviously put into specific roles, but they don't feel the same. Like, Cap and Venom are both tanks, but they don't play the same. So, you know,
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's it's an interesting game. Let's just put it at that. But it's very competitive and just like, it's very time consuming. So, if you're gonna get into this, like, better, better get good.
I know you're not the first person to tell me that, and it is one of the factors that I have, uh, it's why I kind of haven't gotten into it yet because it's just. But I know I'm a gamer. I know how it goes. You got to get in enough to get the skill set down and practice and get good at it. So, but I mean, I actually love it. I am a gamer at heart, and I see in my future very soon I will start playing that game. I will start playing that game. Ramses agrees.
So, I mean, when you were doing Bucky, did you go back to watch the movies to get, or go back to watch any specific previous incarnation to
Hmm.
get a handle of what the character is, or did you just go in to do your own thing?
I actually deliberately did not do that because otherwise it gets me too in my own head, and it makes I start and I'm worried I'll start mimicking, like I mentioned at the beginning of this. I'll start mimicking his performance instead of bringing my own. Um, I know some people have a different approach to that than I do, but for me, I did not do that. And I instead immersed myself more in the lore of who Bucky is and Hydra and the whole background and where he came from and what that. But now that it has come out, I have gone back and rewatched those. And Sebastian Stan he's amazing, and he really brought the popularity to the character for a good reason. He hit all those same tones that we were talking about earlier. He did it effortlessly. And but I've totally gone back and watched them now since. I'm like, oh yeah, he is really cool. He's a really cool character.
And I think probably I think my favorite Bucky line, which I think is probably like the most one that aged well, is when he's talking about Hydra. He says like this is just one group of fascists I wish that would never come back or something like that. I'm like, yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bet you do, Bucky. Yeah, but you got that arm out of it, didn't you? So, yeah, silver lining.
So I'm kind of wondering, like, seeing as this is a game that's filled with cosmetics, do you have a specific, like, are you hoping for any specific Bucky type skin to be released, or are you just like, yeah, whatever?
I don't know enough about it to be able to weigh in on that. I mean, it's just the stuff that they're coming out with is awesome. Friends and fans will send me stuff and be like, "Here, check this one out." And I'll be like, "That's cool. It's really cool. Is what they're doing is really cool." NetEase has done a great job. Really like illuminating and bringing to life these beloved American characters, and I think it's really cool that this Chinese-based company has done that so well. Like they really have understood this very American sentiment of these superheroes. Of course, they have their own lore and they've got the equivalent of superheroes and stuff. But you know, what does it mean to be Captain America, for instance? Like they got that right, and not just that, they got the whole thing right. They got everybody right. Like it's very impressive to me. The team is great, and they were great to work with. They were so supportive, and and then it was in conjunction with the Marvel team also here. Like the whole team was great. Blind Light was great. They were the director. They were all great, man. And I think what it goes to show is when you have a really solid team who can just handle whatever all the things that it would take to bring this to fruition. it creates a space for a performer or an actor to come in and be able to bring themselves to the project and try and do justice to these really established characters. And so I really I really owe a lot of this performance to them, and they're allowing for this performance to happen. So it's a big thanks to them. Big thanks to the team.
Yeah, and then hopefully, we'll, get more Bucky down the road because, it's a popular game and they're always gonna, call you in back for it's like, hey, you got can you come back to record more lines?
Well, here's to hoping, man. Here's to
Yeah.
hoping. Yeah.
But how long was it, like when was this like because I know that, you guys record in advance. Like when was this like when did the audition go out? I'm kind of curious now.
That's what I was trying to remember with you, man. Two 2 years more, maybe 2.5 years. I mean, we were really kind of emerging from the pandemic. I remember, and because I have had to go in to studio. Sometimes I can record from, my home studio, but for big projects like this, they need the security and the propriety, and they need to have everything sound the same. So you got to go in there. And this was like one of the first. I remember the first kind of things where we could kind of go back in to a studio. It was like, wear your mask, take off your mask. Oh my gosh. And I remember it being kind of a big deal. So it was a while ago, man. It was a while ago. And they just did I think they got some like bass lines. I think they maybe were testing things out, like who's gonna who's gonna play what, who's gonna do what. And so, th like I was saying earlier, it's like where you find where you fit in, find where you can plug in, where you can be of service, where you can offer whatever your skills are. And because you were also talking about earlier, just going in and doing a bunch of voices, and that's not what voiceover is, of course. It's living in the skin of a character. It's acting. And I mean, doing voices are great, but they have that. They already have that. They have the people that do those voices. They need your voice, and what you bring to it is going to make that unique. And you think so, Ramses? Yeah, he agrees. Uh, yeah. So, like I said, I got a extreme stroke of fortune that they thought, oh, this guy's going to be Bucky. And I mean, if you had asked me beforehand, like, what character would be cool to play, like I was mentioning before, it'd be Venom, or because these are my favorite characters growing up. Um, Iron Man is so cool, but that's obviously RDJ, Robert Downey Jr. He's like now he is Iron Man, just like Han Solo is Harrison Ford is Han Solo. Um, I don't know that I would have necessarily been Bucky. Bucky, I want to do Bucky. But now I'm so glad I got Bucky because I feel like Bucky is one of those characters who wasn't as well fleshed out as Captain, as Hulk, as Spidey. And like the people that are doing these, playing Hulk and Spidey, they've been doing those voices for a decade or maybe more. That's them, So I kind of got lucky doing a character that wasn't as well defined, and that gave me, I think, more latitude to be able to bring whatever it is I bring to that character without confinement of no, Spidey doesn't do that. He sounds like this. Well, it's like what does the Winter Soldier sound like? What does he say? What does he do? And so it was cool being able to kind of incarnate a lot of that character that I feel like pop culture hasn't really seen too much of, other than what we were talking about with Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, because there just isn't much of him, like, because all the cartoons are like, he's still either brainwashed or he wants revenge against Hydra. I mean, that's basically it. Like there's
Yeah.
no
Right.
like there's not much to go back on to even if you did like go back to watch all those old cartoons and all his other appearances in other media besides the movies, like there wouldn't be much to go off of because it's just like, oh, he's just a guy who wants either he's just like one of the brainwashed villains or he's just wants revenge against the people who hurt him. And it's like, okay, cool. Hello, Batman. You know?
Right. 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 I mean, they all kind of have that in common, right? Like somebody did him dirty and it made them who they are. I'm not going to get back at it. But there is some there is some uniqueness to it. And then there's some continuity. Like that's why Steve and he are kind of joined at the hip, and they have a lot of that commonality. And that adds to the story, and adds to the complexity, and adds to the duality. And they've done a great job, kind of taking this core mythology and making it something really fun and really easily accessible. And it's just cool to you want to be Thor, you want to be Moon Knight. I loved Moon Knight growing up too. You can do that now. Awesome. So cool. I'm such a fan.
Yeah, it's so weird like seeing a lot of these characters who I've never ever thought would ever be playable in a Marvel game be playable for the first time ever. I mean, Hela, I think, is probably my favorite. I mean, I'm a Hela main because obviously she's voiced by.
Ah,
I mean, she's
nice.
she's great, and she's voiced by Nika Futterman, who is the GOAT. So, like, do I need another reason to like this character? I don't think so. But yeah, I mean, she's fun to play. I mean, I love how cartoonishly evil she is, but I love her morbid obsession with death. It is very entertaining, and you have Magneto, who's very much like for a mutant wants the best for his people, and then you have Logan, who's just like whatever, man, like I'm just here because someone has to do the jobs that nobody wants to do.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, how did you get into it? Did you become, were you like into games for a while, or were you into comic books, or were you into this stuff, or
I mean,
what pulled you in?
because I grew up like I mean I grew up with the original cartoons, and I mean as a kid growing up in the '90s, like it wasn't cool to like this stuff, but I didn't have much friends growing up, and I mean I always felt like an outsider, and comic books and TV shows were an escape for me. I mean like the animated Spider-Man series, Batman the animated series, Kevin Conroy will forever be my Batman. I will never like no disrespect to any other actor who has played Batman, but Kevin is always going to be Batman to me. Like I will never like no one else will come
Yeah.
close to being Batman. And
Yeah.
I remember being heartbroken when I heard the news that he passed away because that, as someone who suffers from, depression and anxiety, Batman was such a huge comfort character to me and one of my biggest regrets in life was never getting a chance to meet Kevin and thanking him for
Mm,
bringing
mm.
to life such an important character for everybody. And I love superheroes. Like I said, I mean, I grew up. I'm old enough to have to admit that I have grown up with the Marvel versus Capcom games. Those are my introduction
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
those, and
Awesome.
and the what do you call it? The X-Men the animated series. Like basically like if there was a superhero show in the '90s, chances are I would have watched it because that's the era I grew up in, and that's I'm glad that we're getting that superhero that resurgence of that particular era where it's like oh the X-Men are back, X-Men
Yeah.
97, and it's like
Right.
yeah, people are talking about X-Men again. I like it's just it feels great. I love it.
It does, man. It feels great. And I got pulled in the same kind of way. And that's another great thing I think about the whole superhero thing. I mean, that's how Superman started. It was like a Jewish immigrant outcast sort of thing. And you want to come up here, Ramses? No. That's Superman's origin story, the actual origin story of Superman. And I know this because I have a friend whose father animated. the original Superman stuff, and he was telling me about this. That's where it came from. So it's like these superheroes, they themselves have their the root lore, their origin story in feeling insecure and feeling outcast and not fitting in, and and finding a way to make that their superpower. It's a really powerful message. It's a universal one, and I think that's why that's where the its popularity stems from. Everybody feels like that. Some more than others, but everybody feels that. And people have different ways and modalities of covering for feeling insecure or outcast, but everybody feels like that. And I think that what unites um, that's what unites everybody in that same human experience. And that's why these beloved characters are so popular, because we see ourselves in them.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I know it sounds corny, but like, to your point, I mean, Spider-Man was another, like, he was like my one of my favorite superheroes as a kid because he was basically just an outcast who never fit in, never got his life together, but he always tried to do the best he could. And over the years, I've seen that story evolve, and I've seen it retold countless times. But I still think it is important now more than ever because a lot of people nowadays are struggling with their identity and trying to find their place in the world. And I think that,
Mm.
superheroes provide a good comfort for that because like I mean if I didn't have those shows growing up, I don't know like where I would be, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I like you mentioned Spider-Man. He was also my first favorite. When I was a kid, I had a lot of ear infections, and I had to get tubes in my ears. And my like almost my first memory of a dream, kind of, because they got to put you under to get the tubes in. My dream was laying in the big room where they have all the kids with his like little crib kind of things, and Spidey, he came in to save me and like whipped and got us out of there. And I'm what, 4, 5, something like that, Like that's how early. This is way before I became online or was like conscious of why do you like this? Why don't you like that? Just like a little sensory blob as a kid. But I knew I liked Spider-Man. I knew I liked him. I knew I thought he was cool, and he was not. I mean, you look at him, you could be like, he can kind of look kind of scary if you look at that from a perspective of a kid. Like, have any facial expressions, these big eyes. He could be kind of scary. But I knew he was a good guy. And not only that, I knew he could come save me. It's amazing to me, I'm just this kid who doesn't know anything except that he likes Spidey and he knows that Spidey could come and save him. So it's like this stuff has kind of just been kicking around my subconscious, unconscious, however we want to say that. And I love getting the opportunity to be able to play in any way, in any realm, in any capacity, in this universe. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, because that's kind of the joy of acting is just getting to play, pretend for a living.
It's exactly right. It's what it is. You engage your imagination. Like, if I can't actually be this character, what would it be like to be him? If I had a metal arm, what would that be like? And I basically had all the superpower, all the powers that Cap has, but instead of a shield, I got an arm. Oh, cool. Yeah. How would that inform some of the lines I say? You know, like if I'm, this was a cool thing about the about some of the recordings that, you know, the director Michael Circus Surix, sorry, he would kind of paint the picture for me like this is what Hydra did to you. You know, you don't feel good about this. And you go, okay. Because when you break it down from an acting perspective, you go, is this good or is it bad? And then you can get into the shades of how good and how bad. But I mean, let's just get it in the right, you know, the right corner. And the cool thing about Bucky is it's rarely just good or bad. And I think this maybe extends to a lot of the superheroes because what is good becomes bad or bad becomes good. It's always this exchange, and I love that because I think it models how actually we are in real life. Um, but again, this is just another one of those cool things that Bucky had going for him as a character because he's got a lot of gray. There's a lot of grays, you know. He's still, you know, pretty much a good guy, but it's like he's not Captain. He's not Captain America. You know, he's not Spidey. He's not just 100% good. He's got some complexity there, and I think that there's a lot of people that also resonate with that, which is kind of feeling like, I mean, you know, I think there's a lot of synonymous like goth kind of vibes that he's got. I myself with a goth, you know, I had a friend who really kind of got me into it. The mohawks and the fingernail and the eyeliner and trench coats and you know, yeah, I was there. You know, I fully embodied that and identified with that much more than I did kind of what the other side of me, which was I was in a family full of jocks. We were all about sports. You know, we're in my family we're tall. We're taller than the average. So it was basketball and football and volleyball and but we played all of it, soccer and baseball and you know we it was a family of sports. And I'm this artist here, you know. Sports are fun, great, but my heart was in the arts. And as a creative, it was always every time I was playing sports, a lot of the times I felt it was pulling me away from being able to be creative and um you know, so it's just another layer that I had of that duality that I felt like kind of lended itself to playing Winter Soldier when it came to not always wanting to have to do what needs to be done, but doing it anyways. And but it's not painted in this star spangled banner or just all kind of malevolence and evil. It's kind of somewhere in between. And it's this kind of melancholy character. And because I mean that's what Sebastian Stan brought to the role, right? Very moody, very melancholy, very understated. It's what made him so cool. Other than being a total badass. But there was never there was never these like huge kind of big shouty moments from him, you know. Um, and of course this game is full of them. So there was kind of a lot of unpaved open road for me to um, do some takes and have them be like, yeah, that's working, or let's try something else. Um, and that brings us to Armed and Dangerous again, again, and again and again.
Okay, I gotta ask, like, how do you feel about that meme? Because I think it's like one of the most hilarious things to come out of this game.
Yeah. I- why that one? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, man. I remember recording them in the day and I do not and at the time I was like this is not going to be like the thing that everybody attaches to. Was like I have to do battle cries all the time. And this was a battle cry. So I don't know. I think if you ask me why did that become such a popular meme, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe people just are having fun slamming their fist into the ground and again and again. And I just think it's really cool that people are enjoying playing it, and I think that there's a lot of really cool ults that I hear. You know, um, it's just a cool part of the game. It's a cool thing that they figured out how to do, and but Bucky's Armed and Dangerous is that was it was just a fun line to record and something that I never thought was going to become like a big a big meme that everybody sends each other. Certainly not what friends and stuff are sending me.
I think it's because like with because you haven't played the game because his ult you can do it more than once and whenever you do it more than once he says again and again and again. So it is technical, technically you can like, if you get one kill, you can do it more than once. So, you can technically eliminate a bunch of enemies with that move. So I think that's why it became a meme because
Ah,
you hear it more than once and then it becomes repetitive and then it just becomes real funny.
okay. Okay. I mean, well, one and like the last two or one or two, the final sessions that we had, the team was telling me that Winter Soldier was um what faring very well in the beta, and people were really enjoying playing Winter Soldier, and because of the line. And I was like, oh, cool. That's really cool. It's really cool to hear. It's always cool to hear that people are enjoying, whatever your character, whatever work you've done. But I didn't realize how much people were enjoying it, um, until it's kind of been out now for a little while. And I mean, I've got like friends from high school who are like, oh, my kids are, um, they're super into it. And when I told them I know the Winter Soldier, they're like, what? And, but here I am. I'm just a nerd too. I'm just a geek also, who's really into gaming and really into the stuff, who loves it enough to have stuck around long enough to be able to get the chance to do this. And I don't know. It's a wild ride, but I'm here for it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the game goes, and I'm looking forward to playing it myself.
Yeah, man, it's a wild ride. And can you stand listening to yourself or are you or does it feel weird like hearing the character
Yeah,
and
yeah. Um, it's hard. It's hard. If I'm being honest, it's hard. It's hard for anybody, I think. I think this is a universal thing. But pe people have asked me like, when you hear yourself give a performance, are you like, mm? And I always am. I always am like, I would have done that differently now. But just some of the stuff that I've heard with Bucky, I'm like, I'm not, I'm really happy with it. I'll hear it and I'll be like, oh wow, we got into a really magic space during those recording sessions where I felt really connected to the character and to the characters that I was talking to. There was time and space to be able to do that. We were trying to get to the next line and get to the finish. There was time to really embody the character. So when I hear Bucky stuff now, I'm like, oh yeah, I almost don't associate it with myself. It's that character, and to me, like he sounds cool. I'm happy with him. I wouldn't clip his wings or change him in any other way now. I think it was a job well done by the whole team.
yeah, because honestly, like, and I don't say this like, to I'm being honest when I say this. I think like, out of all the Winter Soldiers, you're probably my favorite. Out of all the people who voiced him, because like,
Oh man.
you understand his struggle. It's like, yeah, he
Hmm.
gets that. This guy gets what Bucky is all about. He understands that he's
Hmm.
morally conflicted and he's an anti-hero at the end of the day. And I feel like that comes out with your performance when you listen to it.
Nice. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that because I mean that's what I was going for, and that's how I have personally felt in my life. So it's there really is a great catharsis in kind of being able to bring your own personal experience to a role, and suffering being a nerd for long enough. My youngest brother always gives me trouble for this because it's like, you're such a nerd. I've got three brothers, so there's four of us boys. it was mayhem all the time. Um, but of course, he had the benefit of having three older brothers, so he learned from all of our mistakes, so he was much cooler. I'm the firstborn, so I was, you know, by default, probably the nerdiest. I don't know if that's true anymore, but I was then. So I definitely felt, we moved around all the time. I'm tall. So, if there's any one thing that's weird or different about you, the kids are coming after you. So, yeah, I felt like outcasted a lot of the times in my life, and didn't know where I plugged in, didn't know what I necessarily was good at or what I could offer. So, yeah, I really connect with this character, with Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier, and I'm really happy that people are enjoying playing him and like, you know, everything from his ults to his little like kind of one-liners off the sides and stuff like that. I think it's really cool.
Okay, did they ever give you an in-universe explanation as to why he only carries three bullets with him?
I think because he'd be over. No, they never did to answer your question, but I think he'd just be overpowered. He'd be way too powerful. Like when Rocket throws down his unlimited ammo thing for a minute. I've seen in the TikToks or whatever. It's like, then he's got 10 seconds or whatever of just blasting. It's like, dude, I mean, he's a powerful character, and the combinations he can do, take out a tank and stuff. He's too overpowered otherwise. He's got to find a way to tamper him down a little bit because yeah, otherwise he'd just be OP. It'd just be too much. What are you saying, Ramses? What are you saying? Huh? Um, anyways, I just think, yeah, they got to balance the game, right? They got to make it, they can't make any one character too OP. And again, I haven't played it, but it seems like they've done a good job balancing that.
I personally think it's because they gave him three bullets because they're like, okay, if it was either Bucky gets more bullets or the Punisher only gets one gun, and they're like, well, a Punisher has to have two guns, so
Uh,
I think that's kind of the
yeah,
case where it's like,
at least, right? I mean,
yeah.
he needs a van full of guns if we're going to be fair, if it's the real Punisher. But yeah, 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 and um, Iron Man, they've all got their like. I mean, like when you think about Thor and Mjolnir, his hammer, it's like they just did a good job. It like kind of getting. Actually, we got to pay a little allegiance to Marvel and Stanley and the whole everybody who created these characters to begin with and their superpowers because they already established kind of like this a balance of power and hierarchy and who would match well against who would be weak against who and so they started with some like a really cool kind of already sort of pretty well thought out and fleshed out and balanced universe and then to like get that into a battle arena. They just did a great job. They did a great job with that.
Okay, while I'm on the subject of Thor, does Travis Willingham have the most manliest voice in all of voiceover? Because I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of like anyone who has like a manlier voice, and I
Yeah.
just can't.
I mean, Kevin Conroy, you mentioned, he's got such a mensch voice, but yeah, Travis, I mean, I mean, you've got Fred Tatasciore and Steve Bloom. I mean, there's a lot of people in here who are just have just epic voices and a career to match that. And it's just another reason why I feel so honored to be a part of the whole game.
Have you gotten a chance to meet any of your castmates?
I'm friends with a fair amount of them. Um, but of the people that I don't know, no, I haven't met any of them. And isn't that ironic? And it's kind of just how the voiceover community is. I mean, we all record in isolation, and we have conversations with each other in the game, but we don't really know each other. Some people have reached out, which is really cool. But I mean, like Judy Alice Lee. Um, um, I mentioned Bill, who is, plays the Punisher, and um, I guess off the top of my head, I'm not coming up with very many of them. Um, Jordan Reynolds, plays Adam. Um, there's um, a good amount of people that are just really cool, anyways. I mean, generally, people in the voiceover community are pretty chill, pretty cool, pretty approachable. There's not a lot of ego. I mean, it does exist. It is there. But everybody's been pretty cool. And I mean, I would love to get to meet Steve Bloom. He's a big influence. Fred Tatasciore. I don't personally know them. Those guys are pretty epic. Um, and I mean, Abby Trott, she's really cool. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. There may be some convention appearances that are coming up here, and maybe there will be a bunch of us, and who knows, maybe get a chance to meet them then. But I'll always be a fan of theirs. I'll always be a student of theirs. I'll always be just trying to touch the hem on their sleeve. And yeah, I'm honored to be a part of it all.
I feel like it gives you an advantage not recording together because then you can just go up to Brian Bloom and say, hey, I voiced Bucky, and he's like, who are you again? Why are you talking to
Yeah,
me?
yeah, that's funny. I did see Brian at a party at the end of the year, like one of those holiday parties, and I knew who he was. I just didn't know what he looked like. And I looked at him, and I think he looked at me, and I was like, I think I know you. But then, then the moment passed, and and since I've gone back and seen, so if I could have a redo on that, I would be like, Brian, it's such an honor to meet you. I play Bucky, but I missed that opportunity. But and he's perfect. He's perfect as Cap. I don't think he could be any better. It's just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, he's the definitive Captain America. He's been playing that character for a decade now, and it's crazy that he still got it. Doesn't sound like he's slowing down anytime soon.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, speaking of convention appearances, like, is that something that you're willing to dip your toe into, the con scene?
Yeah, I've kind of held off on it for the last few years for some previous characters that I've played and have been approached to do it, but I wanted to just kind of stay because I have friends that do it and they're like it's exhausting. I mean, they're making money doing it, but it's exhausting flying around and doing it and auditioning from a hotel room and then having to hustle to a and I was like I kind of want to continue to base myself in Los Angeles, continue to train and get better at what I do and be available for these projects as they come up. And but I think with this one now, it's like, yeah, I think I probably will get a couple of dates on the books. It has yet to be announced, and I haven't decided on when or where. But this is a really cool character, and I've gotten a lot of people reaching out and just showing their love. So I'm really grateful for that. And as such, I think I probably will make a couple of, at the very least, a few appearances in the next year.
Awesome. So, before I wrap this up, can you give us an update on what you're currently working on and where can people find you online?
Yeah, okay. So you were very good about asking me about NDAs. So there are certain things that I cannot talk about. And of course, we're still in the middle of this interactive strike. So there's even less I can talk about because of that. But I'm always happy to connect with fans. So you can find me. It's just my name, my strange biblical porn star name that you mentioned at the top, Eliah Mountjoy. All one word. That's the same for Instagram, for X, for all the socials. I've tried to keep it easy like that. And fortunately, there aren't too many Eliah Mountjoys. I've never met another one, so it makes it easy for me to for people to find me. But I'm in some cool dubs that are out now. There's one on Disney Plus and Hulu. It's called Ishura or Ishura, and I play this character, Toroa the Awful. He's a really cool character, and I had a lot of fun playing him. So you can see me there. And there's a couple more dubs that are coming out soon. but I'm not allowed to talk about those yet, so I won't. But yeah, you can find me in some commercials and stuff too. There's the Monopoly commercials that are going to be coming out. That'll be my voice on there. So it's been cool being able to do that, especially during the strike. It's nice to have the work. And yeah, yeah, reach out if you see me online. Reach out. I love connecting with fans and hearing your story about how you came to Bucky, what you like about him, and look forward to that.
Also, thank you for mentioning what do you call it, that show because was is Mike was it Michael was the director on that?
On which show?
The anime what do you call it? What's its
Oh,
name?
the one that I just mentioned,
Yeah, yeah,
Yashura.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Michael Schneider, Michael Alan
yeah.
Schneider.
Good buddy of mine.
Yeah.
Awesome dude. Awesome
Oh,
dude.
nice. Oh, yeah, man. He is the coolest. He is the coolest. And I don't just fling that out there. He is a really cool, genuine dude, and he's really good at what he does. He really understands anime. He understands interactive stuff. He's really good at communicating what he thinks is best without giving you a line reading and still giving you the space to like do your thing. And I'm sure it's because he's an actor too. He's a director. He knows how to engineer. The guy wears so many hats. You just have to be a really intelligent person to be able to do that. But you wouldn't know it because he's so damn cool. He's just so damn cool. He can just riff and talk with you, with joke in the sessions where there's joking back and forth. It's great. The guy, he's really great. I can't say enough of him. This is my first time working with him, and I hope it's not the last because he was a joy to work with. So good call
Yeah.
knowing who was doing that and
Yeah,
what was happening.
he's
Really
great.
cool.
And I gotta give him his flowers. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time off to do this. This has been a wonderful conversation. And if you ever want to come back, you know where to find me.
You know what? I'd love to do that sometime, Abdullah. And I appreciate you reaching out and having me on. This has been an awesome conversation. You're a really cool guy to talk to. So let's do this again.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.
All right. Peace.